Welcome to Rurik's Hobby Channel. Welcome to Rurik's Hobby Channel, Chaos Space Marines Restoration Episode 2. In this episode, you'll see me do a lot of brushwork and a decent paint job on a set of Chaos Space Marines Terminators, as well as a Chaos Warlord in Terminator armor. And as you can see, these models have previously been painted in the Black Legion color scheme. But we're going to go with something different, and that will be the red and brass scheme of the World Eaters Chaos Space Marine Legion. In case you haven't already checked out the first episode of this series, these models have been soaking in isopropyl alcohol within a not so well working DIY dishwasher. And yeah, there's a lot of paint on these models, as you can see, and the scrubbing just didn't seem to have an end. But eventually, after a lot of scrubbing and reassembling the models, they were ready for a new paint job. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, this is a perfect time to do so. For the priming, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna use blue tack to tack these models onto this lovely flower designed tray, and we're gonna get some scale colors, black primer paint like so, wajam! And then for a zenith highlighting, we're gonna use Maston's white primer, shazam! That's quick and easy. Next up, we're going to use corn red to base color all the red parts of the Terminator armor. This is a very enjoyable part of the painting process, since you don't really have to watch out where you're slapping the paint. This is a bit laborious, so let's speed it up a bit. And this bad boy is the Chaos Warlord in Terminator armor that you must have seen in the intro already. I'm using this little piece of blue tack to mask off a part where I want to glue the cape of this model on. You can see the cape in the background of many shots, like this one. The next thing I'm going to do is to base all the metallic parts with Lead Belcher by Citadel. Unlike with the corn red, this time we're going to have to be a bit more tidy, and that is exactly why I've sped up this footage to 600 times the normal speed. And right about now we're going to get cracking on the details of the Terminators. The Terminators carry a lot of trophies on their backs, such as this green Dark Angel's head, and the pouches that are painted brown for the leathery feel, and also there's a Tyranid head or two that are gonna get a splash of purple. And these tusks, these are painted in an Ushabti bone mixed darkened down with a brown mixed from Vallejo green and red. Now that we have the details based, let's crack open the bottle of skills, which is Nuln Oil. Nuln Oil is gonna give a nice shade to the recesses of the model on the red and the metallic areas. We're gonna reserve many of the details to be washed with Agrak's Earthshade for a more warm tone. By the way, all the music on this channel has been made by me. I hope you're enjoying the spacey, hopefully not too cheesy, sci-fi ambient soundscapes. Next up, we will be basing the brazen trims on the Terminator armors with Balthazar Gold by Citadel. These detailed pauldrons, for example, are especially satisfying to paint. Look at them just take shape. And also, putting some contrast on the model is always a great indication of making progress. The model all of a sudden starts to feel more real and more alive, with different nuances provided by different colors. The Chaos Warlord model is something I like to emphasize in this video just because how well sculpted it is, with all the detail and possibilities that the hobbyist can leverage. This is a really good time to get back to fixing all the details that we have forgotten about before we slap on the shading with Agrex Earthshade that I mentioned earlier. And oh yeah, almost forgot about the cape. Let's try to give it a real old rugged black leather look. And now it's time for the Agrex Earthshade skill in a bottle. We'll be applying it to all of the brazen parts of the armor, as well as all the detail that needs to be shaded with a warm tone. If you are enjoying the process of shading detailed pauldrons, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. There's quite a lot of details to shade still, so let's crank up the speed to 300 times the normal. And yeah, I wasn't too satisfied with the cape, so I'm pretty much redoing it from scratch. The next part of the painting process is going to be the one that really pops these models into life. We're going to be glazing some highlights on the models, trying to follow the principle of volumetric lighting. So basically, you put lighter paint wherever you think light would hit the model if it were real. The first layer is just corn red, because we want to bring back the corn red color from what happened after we shaded it with Null Oil. And next up after that, we are going to use Wazdaka Red as the next layer, and finally we're going to be using the very bright Vallejo Flat Red. And if you're going to try this multi-layer glaze method yourself, just remember to keep the paint very thin. You can use either water or thinning mediums. I'm using only water. To give the model a bit of contrast, try to find even the smallest areas where you think you would find this extreme red. Even the slightest amount of paint can sometimes make a real big difference. I'm sorry for the lack of camera focus in this shot. If we ever hit 1000 subscribers, I promise I will go shopping for a macro lens and a good camera. This footage, by the way, is filmed on a OnePlus 7 Pro smartphone, and I think it's pretty decent for a phone. The next thing to do is to highlight the brazen parts of the armor with Sycorax Bronze by Citadel. And this highlight we want to do in a very subtle way. We don't want to overdo this at all. This way, the brazen parts will have a noticeable depth to them. After highlighting the brazen parts, we're going to take a drop of lead belcher and we're going to dry brush all the metallic parts. It pretty much means that we'll load the brush with very little water and a very small amount of paint, so that you'll really have to rub the bristles of the brush on the model to get any of the paint to stick. This way you can get this really great effect of depth, since the paint only sticks to the most raised areas. After doing such a good job highlighting all the details on the backside of the Terminator Warlord, we're just gonna hide the details with the cape. Anyway, this model is really starting to look like something it should. Next up, we're going to be highlighting all the extra special parts, like the cables and trophies and skulls and whatever. The trophy heads are supposed to be something that have been ripped off fallen enemies, hence the very high contrast highlights that help to give a very worn look. Here's a quick touch for the Terminated carapace, and a whole lot of other details in high speed. Let's do some dry brushing once again, but this time for the bony parts, like the tusks. Next up, we will be basing the power weapons on 3 of the Terminator models with a mix of Macragge Blue by Citadel and Black by Vallejo. After the basing is done, we're going to glaze the power weapons with a lighter shade of blue, followed by another lighter shade of blue, after which we can start etching in the lightning patterns or whatever energy surges that might be traveling through the metal in the weapon. And as a finishing touch for now, we will be edge highlighting the weapons with white. And moving on to a really risky part. Now we're gonna take a really light blue color on the dry brush and start brushing in some blue glow effect. We're gonna put it on the weapon itself and the immediate surroundings of it, like so. And as always, let's repeat the process. Oh, and I almost forgot. We need to have eye lenses on the Terminators. Let's start by basing the eye lenses with white, so that the color we're gonna pick is going to be as radiant as possible. Let's add a nice glow for the Warlord's helmet as well. I chose Vallejo's deep green as the lens color because it's a really nice complement to the red. And before I show you the final result, here's proof that I have indeed based the models. Ignoring all the completely visible mold lines that I was too lazy to remove, take a look at these nice glow effects from the power weapons. And here's the big bad dude with a before and after comparison. And here is the complete crew. And I'm happy to say that they look like they are ready to harvest some skulls. A huge thanks to all the viewers who have made it this far in the video. Thank you for tuning into Rurik's Hobby channel for another episode of Chaos Space Marines Restoration.
Ai vittu. Perkele.